Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This is, of course, the 001 Radio Gamescast. We've changed the name. We're new, and by new, I mean completely the same. But the name's different.
I'm still here, unfortunately.
Yep, we've unfortunately still got Wyatt. This is episode number 1 of the Gamescast, 21 overall. We're going to keep going with the same number, so it is episode 21, but the name is now the Gamescast. We got some new stuff we're going to talk about. We got a new game. As every week, we have a new game. I am your host, Ryan, and I'm joined today by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Alex.
Hey, I'm back.
Brett.
Hello.
And Wyatt.
I'm not lovely. I don't believe you. Why would you lie to me?
It's just a habit. Okay.
Wow. Wow. I appreciate the honesty, at least.
Well,
You gotta start off on the right foot, you know?
Yeah,
all right, so we have a packed show today. We've got a lot to talk about. But first, of course, we have a game. And, I thought games are old. Of course, this is a show about games, so saying that's a little counterproductive. But games are old news.
That means it's a very worrying future for our podcast.
Is awards show. Awards, right? We need to have awards.
No.
So now this is the inaugural event of the 001 Radio Gamescast Greatest Game Award 2020 edition.
Oh boy.
Now what this is we will be taking a bunch of games, we will be looking at them and doing a very brief, by brief I do mean brief, 1 minute discussion, and then deciding which one is the best. And these are all games that released this year, of course.
Is Bug Snacks one of those games?
Oh, it's not out yet. We can't. It's
How
not
did
out.
I know you were gonna say that? I just knew.
It's
Brett
because
was
it's
ready.
so hard.
Talking about bug snacks,
Could
man.
you think a little quieter? I can hear you thinking from here.
No.
All right. So our 3 games today, and the way this will work is if you've ever played Jackbox's TKO, it's the same format. It's a defender champion format. So we will have an ongoing game that is the defender each week, which will be the game we decide here. And then we will have new challengers each week that will be vying for its place. So right now, our first 3 contenders for the initial title of the greatest game of 2020, Last of Us Part 2. Half-Life Alyx and Animal Crossing New Horizons. And if you're wondering where I get these from, it is according to OpenCritic's top scores. That's mainly just for this week to pick our top 3 to choose from. But these are the highest scoring OpenCritic games that are not additional content. So Persona 5 Royale is technically the highest scoring game of 2020 so far, but because it is just Persona 5 and it did come out in Japan last year, I'm not really counting it in the 2020, even though I love Persona 5. So if you're curious why Persona 5's not here, that's why. All right. So, who's got a bid? Who thinks a game should be the top contender for this?
I've played one of them, so
I've
I'm just gonna
played.
sit back.
Yeah.
I've also played just one of them.
Same thing for just one of them. But for me, it's really between Half-Life Alyx and Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing, pretty much just because of the uncanny timing that Nintendo has.
Yeah.
Very uncanny.
They have something going on backstage.
Yeah.
Probably.
They were ready. That delay was calculated.
That and Alex, it's just another breath of content that was much needed for Half-Life fans.
Yeah.
I
I think
the Half-Life 3 that they were looking for.
unless
but
someone here
still,
really wants to defend Last of Us Part 2 as
Good
greatest
physics stuff.
game material, I think we can safely cross that one out just because of how divisive it is, and we did 2 entire podcasts about it, right? But I think go over the reasons why it probably shouldn't be.
Don't let Wyatt talk. Don't let Wyatt talk.
It should be
Cross it off
it's
and
in the
let it be
discussion,
over.
right? It had a spot here, but I don't think we can say that this is the greatest game. And what greatest game means, we're not going to define it. It's up to whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
you get 30 seconds, Wyatt.
Yeah.
30
I
seconds.
didn't even say it, so quiet you. I've been playing games throughout 2020, but not a lot of them have come out this year.
Same.
Yeah, that's the
So-
big thing.
Out of the games that I have played that have come out in 2020, Oh wait, no, I forgot Doom Eternal came out. Never mind.
Yeah, Doom Eternal.
Oh,
Doom
yeah.
Eternal is probably next week's contender.
Ooh. Probably knock whatever this week is out of the
So
park.
the reason
Yeah.
I'm throwing the Half-Life Alyx is I think the one that should probably get it because of how unique it is. Even despite I think a lot of us not having not played it, I've played only the very small portion of it. It is something that is pushing boundaries for games. Do I think it will keep the title if we give it to it? No.
No.
I think it will lose it next week. But
It'll have
Yeah.
its moment in the spotlight.
it will have a
Yeah.
week of spotlight, which I think it deserves. And Animal Crossing, I think, has too many little annoyances with the UI and just the time it takes to do things.
And Last of Us 2 is Last of Us 2.
Yeah, it's a great game, but it needs some work.
We all love you, but we can't put you up here for publicity reasons.
All right.
Yeah.
So, unless there's any disagreement, for the first week, Half-Life Alyx will be our greatest game award 2020
Yeah.
for 1 week.
I haven't played it, but sure, because I don't feel
Yeah.
anything about any of these three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously feel very strongly about one of them, but there's no way that we're gonna come to a consensus. So
No.
I'm
yeah,
just gonna
I
step
think
back.
I think Last of Us Part 2 is just too divisive.
Yeah.
Is the big thing.
But if it's about what we feel personally, though, then that
Well,
shouldn't
this
even-
is meant to be like a broad stroke. What would we think is the best? It is not really our personal favorite. That would be like our personal favorite award, which might happen
Okay.
at some time.
So okay.
Yeah,
No,
this is more what we think. Like, if you were to play one experience this year that you really think you would want to do, I would think this is where that would go. And I think Half-Life Alyx would be a good pick for that.
Mhm.
Out of these three. Okay, so Half-Life Alyx is our winner for the first day. That means we get to move on and talk about our wonderful list of topics. We've got a lot for this show. Okay? There's been some developments in some stuff we've been talking about before. So I think we ended the show with the Epic v Apple talk last time. I think we'll start with the Epic v Apple talk this time, and then we'll move on to all the fun stuff.
Epic
get-
v Apple, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah,
Oh no!
it is.
The Snyder
It's a
Cut.
saga now.
Snyder Cut.
I would watch that.
How-
Totally. Are you kidding?
How accurate! Two superpowers battling it out.
Exactly.
Okay, so I would definitely watch that. I think everyone else would. The situation is developing, and it's very interesting because Microsoft has thrown their hat in the ring. They have thrown their hat in the form of a 564-page document defending Epic, which
Wow.
has, I think, lended a lot of credence to Epic's arguments in a way that just them saying these things doesn't.
Microsoft was originally against them, weren't they?
No, Microsoft did not say anything yet.
Okay.
Yeah, they had not had a thing.
They wanted
And-
to see where the pendulum was.
Yeah,
swinging.
I think they were waiting to see which side is the more consumer-friendly argument, and it is very clear at this point that Epic, even though Epic's chances of winning this case, I think, are pretty slim. Just because
But-
Apple is the first not trillion. It is a very, very large dollar company. It
But
is,
they brought
I think,
attention
the
to
largest
this.
company in the U.S. But Epic is also a large company, a lot less large. And they probably can afford around the same tier of lawyers, I'd bet. But we don't know what's going to happen with this. Again, this case is about Epic having Fortnite and then putting in a direct payment option to buy V-Bucks that would essentially cut the cost for them and also for the user. And their case is that Apple and iOS devices are now what you would consider essential devices if you have an iPhone because you use them so much in your daily life that they are essential, and therefore
Oh,
they cannot
gosh,
have
what have we
a
come
monopoly.
to?
Which I think a lot of people now would probably agree with. There are business people who basically will handle all their emails and whatnot on their phone, and they don't need a laptop.
I can
Oh,
think
that's
of plenty of
dangerous.
situations where, especially with what most of us are studying, I can think of so many situations where if I didn't have a phone, I'd be screwed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like there would be, yeah, and I'm sure for everyone here. Thinking
Yep.
About it. It's-
And the important thing is this is specifically in the Apple case. I don't know if they've thrown their hat with this into the Google case as well. I imagine this document serves the same purpose for both.
Yeah. That
But
makes
this one
sense.
is very specifically targeting Apple.
I do know
Uh,
that you can't get Fortnite on the Google Play Store now either.
Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone off Google Play. So the reason Microsoft specifically is stating is mostly because of Apple's response, which was to cut off access to Unreal developers as well.
which is
Yeah,
stupid.
Did we talk about that?
that's the big
last
I think
episode?
screw up.
I don't think we have because
We did
it's pretty
not.
new. So
'Cause
yeah, this
that's
is the
the
big
biggest,
new
like-
development. Apple has fired back and essentially revoked or will revoke as of the end of this month Epic's developer privileges for Apple devices,
See,
which
that-
means
That's
that
the worst move that they
also
could have made.
cascades down to affect anyone that uses Unreal. Now,
Yep.
as of right now, I think the understanding of the situation is that anyone currently using a version of Unreal will likely be okay, but they will not be able to develop on any updated versions of Unreal going forward. That is my
See,
understanding. I don't know
this-
if that might be different. It could be that it will just cut support entirely, but we really don't know until it happens. Like what
See, this
Apple
this is
doing.
not so much like Apple taking its ball and going home. This is Apple taking its ball and then just kneecapping every single person on the playground and
Yeah.
then going home.
It's the worst move that they could have made, and it's
Yep.
what Epic was hoping
Yes.
for.
I think
Yep.
this is. I don't think Epic thought they would do this. I think this is. I think they took it a little further than Epic was probably prepared for. But this will likely, in the end, help Epic in that this is such an anti-consumer move
Oh,
Yeah.
on
absolutely.
so
This
many
was-
levels.
Absolutely.
This was Epic's hidden trap card.
Exactly.
I reveal my trap card.
This is the kind of thing that I think someone made a decision at Apple and probably didn't run it by the people it needed to be run by, especially because it happened so quickly
Mm.
that I don't think they considered the impact this would have of
Oh, certainly. not.
blacklisting.
Tim Cook getting a little trigger happy.
Yeah,
That's
I think they got
surprising
trigger
thing.
happy.
That's the surprising thing because I think one thing that Apple I feel like has always been really good at is controlling their image. Like no matter how you feel about them, they're very good
Yeah.
at controlling their image. And this was just so out of left field. It's like this is so obviously not the right thing to do.
It's
Like,
yeah.
It doesn't even feel like a decision Apple again, doesn't matter how you feel about Apple. This was not something I expected. This is not something I would expect Apple to make.
Yeah, it's such a strange decision. And I think it really does show that Apple is firing on all cylinders against this. They are probably not going to back down, which I think makes the odds of this settling out of court pretty low. But again, none of us here are lawyers. We are not the people
Yeah.
to go to know if this is how this will end right now. We're just kind of people that have a vested interest in Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best way we can look at this is as aspiring developers, or in some cases, like
It's not
we've
even
worked on-
aspiring. Like developers
no,
in
yeah.
general are
1
gonna-
year away.
They are facing something very bad about.
Well, I
this.
mean, we've
Like,
all worked on something over the summer, though, so I
Yeah.
would classify us as like developers. So
Yeah,
I think
developers.
that's the angle. That's the angle we're coming from. Less of like the legal nitty gritty and more of like how does this affect
Yeah.
developers
And
end users.
something else I think is interesting. A lot of people are kind of up in arms against Epic for this because of how it was a planned out move. And I can agree to some extent that they're almost like weaponizing their fan base in a way, which is a little sketchy.
Mhm.
And I got some issues with that. But I think overall, Epic doing this is a good thing because it will
Yeah.
likely create either a precedent or really prove how anti-consumer
Yeah.
Apple is.
Yeah, well,
Something
I-
about that
I-
is from the game's perspective, like how is Apple Arcade doing? Are they in a position to fight this? Because I'm not that partial towards Apple Arcade or whatever they've been doing with the App Store recently there.
Question.
Not really.
But I think we talked about we talked about like them. We talked about Epic planning this ahead of time a
Yeah.
little bit last
Mm,
week, and and just to reiterate, my perspective on that was what they're doing. I think is good. It's just them having this whole thing planned out ahead of time.
it seems.
I'm a
sketchy.
little hesitant. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant, and because it's this big corporation, it's this big company. Because like, yeah, it's smaller than Apple, but it's still Epic. They own
Yeah.
Fortnite for God's sake. So it's like, what's your end goal here? Because I find it very hard to believe that Epic's end goal is purely for the developer, especially
Yes.
with how they've run certain aspects of the Epic Store. So I'm taking a step back and I'm like, all right, what's your real end game here? Because I
It's
don't think
absolutely
it's for
to
us.
make money.
Yeah, it's not for us, which is what they're trying to say.
It's what
but,
they're
like-
presenting it as. It's
But like,
for
what's
the
going on?
developers.
Yeah,
The odds are that's not really the case because getting more developers onto platforms will then incentivize people to use Unreal, which is supporting Epic. So in a roundabout way, this is still directly relating back to their finances and everything. It's not even that roundabout. Like, it's a pretty direct way. But The
I mean,
effect
I'd
it will
still
have on the
rather
rest of the
have-
world is that, yes, this is a good thing for developers if it goes through.
I mean, I'd still unfortunately rather have two big companies vying for power than one monopoly.
Exactly. Yeah, because competition is always good, generally.
Yeah.
It drives the competitors to do better and offer better things for the consumer to incentivize them. And right now, that does not happen on Apple.
Yeah.
So, or Google. Google as well is under a similar situation. They say they kind of
Oh,
go against that a little bit in that you can download app packages from elsewhere. They still do some stuff that's sketchy. And Google as a whole, I'm sure people have plenty of problems with it. We're not going to get super into Google because there's not really been huge developments in that side of the case yet.
I think as a whole, no one really cares about the Google part of this.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
Google
in
case has
general.
less ground. It's still very interesting, but there is less, I think, direct provable legal things they can do.
I think, yeah, and this is probably simplifying it a lot, but I think them going after Google was just to kind of remain as like neutral as possible. You know, it's like, okay, well, if it's
Well, it's
happening
because
here,
Google
then we
also
have to
kicked
point
them
it
off
out here.
the Play Store. So
Well,
they had
that's what
to.
I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that like I feel like they did it to be like, okay, well, we can't seem like
Yeah.
we're we got to spread it evenly. So
Yeah. Okay. So that's most of the Epic developments. We've yet to hear anything major about this so far. We likely won't for a while because these court cases tend to go on for months, weeks to months.
Yep.
So it could be a long time. It might not even be until next year that we finally have like a resolution to this. And of course, they always could settle out of court. It seems less likely now, considering the lengths Apple has gone to. And again, Epic is not like suing for money or anything. They are suing for a more consumer friendly platform.
they're gonna get money out of this whether they sue for money or not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation because they are going to be hemorrhaging money if Apple's ban of everything goes through and doesn't get contested.
And that's why I'm saying, what's their end game? Really?
Exactly. Like what is their response to that? I don't think they're going to back down because I don't think Apple has really thought through that how much they're losing.
Well, they clearly haven't thought it through. If this is what they thought they should have, they
Yeah.
should do.
Yeah. But it could be they just don't think it's important. Like maybe that's not important for the image of Apple. But again, there's probably some Apple Arcade games that use Unreal Engine. I'm not certain, and those games would then be in a weird situation of what if they can't update anymore. Yeah, it's a very strange and complicated situation that we don't have solutions to yet. Okay, so that's the Epic stuff. Moving on, we're going to talk about a brief little game that was shown called Black Myth Wukong.
oh yeah.
So this was a very impressive trailer shown over the course of the week, a few days ago. It went viral pretty quickly, got a lot of traction. It is from a small Chinese studio, I believe. And it got a lot of traction. The trailer looked really good. It's a game that is an indie studio competing with like AAA quality visuals.
Yeah, it's insane.
It
I just
looks
wish you
beautiful.
could find a higher quality version of it somewhere,
Yeah.
because all of the ones that because I've went through a bunch of videos and they're all super like low res. Even if you have it at like 1080p, it's still not great quality, and I feel like it would really show off the visuals a lot more if we could get
Yeah.
a higher quality
Yeah.
version.
Bit rates kind of do that to streaming video. There's a few interesting things with this. They say this is a game based off of the classic Wukong myth legend, where he has like 72 abilities. There's all this stuff going on, and they are saying they're going to put all 72 abilities of Wukong in this game,
It's
Oh
insane.
Which is-
yeah.
that's saying a lot.
Which, if you're not familiar with this myth at all, it has been covered a couple of times. If you ever played Enslaved Odyssey to the West, it covers a very similar
Yeah,
story.
the
I mean-
Wukong myth is very, very common. There's a better name for it. I think it's Journey to the West.
Yeah, Journey to the
Yeah.
West. It's one of my favorite myths.
Yeah, it's very
Mhm.
good. It's been done in games. It's been done in plenty of shows and movies as well. Tons of games have characters based off of Wukong. Like Wukong is a character in League of Legends.
Overwatch has skins based on it.
Yeah, Overwatch's skins. He's a character in
Warframe.
Warframe.
Yeah.
So Wukong is a very prevalent thing, an idea. It's just this is the first time someone is directly tackling the myth. Aside from maybe Smite, but again, Smite is like a multiplayer game. It's not really about the myth. It's just about the character.
And again, Enslaved was a fairly, from what I remember, was a fairly like faithful adaptation, or somewhat anyway.
Yeah, but it was set in like a post-apocalypse and put
Yeah.
in modern trappings. So this is a direct translation of the myth.
Yes, that's correct.
Of like it's set in ancient China. It's that whole journey to the west. Yeah. There's some interesting stuff about this though. So the developers have responded, and like to keep people's expectations in check, because this did go very viral. People were super excited. It's important to understand that this is a vertical slice being shown by devs specifically to attract people to be hired at their studio and like drum up investors. So this is very much not a thing we're going to see soon.
Absolutely not.
It's important to remember that, and it's also important to remember this is a vertical slice that they have said is not reflective of the progress on the game. Because the vertical slice they showed looked very complete. That's not the case of development. That never is. Like I think we've all done like vertical slice trailers before that they are intentionally, they're not necessarily misleading, but when you look at them, you're only showing the parts of the game that work, right?
I mean, the project Ryan, Alex, and I have been working on over the summer is technically a vertical slice, right?
Yeah. That's what it is. And those trailers are very, very kind of cut down. They're just showing, they're meant to look bombastic because you need to attract people to the project and drum up hype. That does not mean the game is anywhere close to release. This game likely won't release for another few years at minimum, and it may never release.
And it also calls into question if the visuals are really going to look like this, if it ever is something that's released.
Yeah, because this is the work of a very small team. I think it is just a few people. So it's a lot of repeated assets, things being flipped around and whatnot. It looks great, but if it's sustainable for a whole game with an indie team, remains to be seen, especially if they're having to hire people and onboard.
Yeah. And especially if they have to have something that has, like, if one thing has 72 abilities, like, are they all going to look that, like, beautiful at release?
And I think the thing is, with Wukong's stuff, a lot of it is very puzzle-based. It's not necessarily, like, 72 things you can do in combat. It's they show turning into a fly, the extending staff, the cloud form.
It's a lot of, like, a boss and then turned into the boss later on, which is interesting. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see if that is, when it comes out, if it comes out. It's just we need to set expectations for that.
Yeah.
But still, with a team this small and this still being a vertical slice,
absolutely.
Like, even then, it's very impressive. What stood out to me visually was the fire effects were just incredible. Like some of the best I've ever seen. They were absolutely just blew my mind. Fantastic.
Yeah, they do look great. All right, so moving on to some more game announcements, some quick ones. We got Ghost of Tsushima Legends.
Yeah.
Which will be a free update to Ghost of Tsushima that adds 4-player co-op set in mythical Japan. Looks very fun. Looks very like a Neo-y. It is class-based.
No microtransactions.
Yeah, no microtransactions. You have 4 classes to pick from. So it's not incredibly freeform, but it is still like, this seems very fun. I'm sure we'll be diving back in whenever it launches. And it also does give the PS5 a good like launch thing if this is on PS5 day one, which remains to be seen if it will be. But it seems very cool. The gameplay they showed looked very complete, and they're probably doing like polish now. So I'm definitely excited for that. I think a lot of people are. Yeah, there's not a ton else to say about it.
Yeah, we don't know too much.
If you're curious about our thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima, very soon there will be a podcast on it in the next few days. So
it's a good plug, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a good plug. That'll go over our thoughts in detail. Okay.
So much detail.
So much excruciating, like 2-hour long detail.
Heck, let's make it 2 videos. Why not?
Well, we already did that. We can't do that twice. All right.
Once, never again.
Think of the children.
Okay, so we got the Black Ops Cold War teaser.
I mean, no gameplay.
Yeah.
I've really liked the way that they've been rolling it out, though. With like sending stuff to like popular streamers and then having to unlock a room in Warzone and stuff like that. It was a really interesting way of like unveiling your game before the trailer comes out.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is it did leak.
Yeah.
Pretty early on. So it didn't quite work out the way I think they hoped, but it's cool. Hopefully it's fun. We have no gameplay though.
I mean, Call of Duty is the kind of thing that I feel like there's a lot more variation in each sequel than people maybe give it credit for, but it definitely the bones.
But you know what to expect, right?
No,
Yeah.
exactly. The bones are very much the same from game to game, and they very much overhauled it with Modern Warfare. It has a very different feeling than like any Call of Duty game before. So if Modern Warfare is kind of what they're basing off of for the next 10 years or so, I'm totally fine with that.
Please.
Because Modern Warfare,
though.
Modern Warfare is what is probably one of my favorite Call of Duty ever. It's fantastic, and if that's the model that they're going off of, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm totally down.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Cold War talk, since we really don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
We have Untitled Goose Game. Actually, no, that's in the Indie Direct. We'll talk about that later.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Forgot that was shown in the Indie Direct. There is a thing that the Scott Cawthon, who, if you don't know, is the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, is helping fund fan games, which I think is pretty cool. That's just a nice little thing to be doing. Not a lot to say about it. It's a nice little thing to be doing. Okay, so we did get one delay that we didn't talk about yet. Deathloop has been delayed to Q2 2021, which really isn't that major of a delay. I think it's more, this is clearly a COVID-related delay. I don't think it's a reason to be concerned at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say it's one that I'm like super amped about, but it's being made by a good developer, which is always a good sign usually. So
yeah. So that's most of our little releases. We do have a date for Baldur's Gate 3 early access. It will be coming next month, I believe September 28th. So if you're interested in Baldur's Gate 3, coming very soon. It looks quite fun.
I didn't know it was launching in early access. Yeah,
Larian tends to do this. They usually launch the RPGs in early access. They stay there for about a year, and then it's mostly bug fixing that happens. So it's pretty content, not content complete, but the stuff you play will be fine. It's just they delay like the second half of the story, I believe, until the end of early access.
That's almost like how early access works.
Yeah, it's almost like what early access is supposed to be for.
That's crazy.
Instead of like, writing 2 lines of code and then selling it for $30.
Look, if you're interested in our thoughts on early access, come back next week.
Hey!
Gotta fit all the plugs.
Wyatt sets it up.
We did get some listings of Prince of Persia Remake. We don't know if they're real, but there's listings. We also did get some bad news. So Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has fired their creative lead.
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
Brian Mitsuda. Most people agree this is not a good sign, mostly because the company did not give the audience a reason, and Mitsuda released a letter talking about it, and it is not... He's literally like saying that he's just blindsided by it and has no... he wasn't expecting it. He says the narrative team wasn't the reason for the delays. How true that is, we don't know. Like, we don't know if maybe he is not telling the full story.
Yeah,
but Brian Mitsuda was responsible for the first one. He's the reason a lot of people were super into the writing. So it's a little concerning. Then again, at this stage in the game, the writing should mostly be complete.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so it's very hard to know, but this combined with the delay seems pretty sketchy.
Well, when was the release date?
It's been pushed back. It's 2021.
Or when was the original one?
I don't know. It was pretty soon. It was like, I think, early 2021. Possibly even 2020.
And it's also a little worrying because was it the last like gameplay trailer they had? It looked a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, the gameplay just looked... It didn't necessarily look bad. It just looked... It looked like the Outer Worlds, right? Like a little bit below what it should have been.
I mean, it's probably just a build from January. So.
Yeah, it's probably just a build from January. Yeah.
Good.
So we'll see how that pans out when Masquerade 2 releases. I think a lot of people are looking forward to that, and this has definitely affected some of that hype. This may end up affecting sales numbers too. This could just be a situation of the company needed to cut people to pay everyone, which would be weird.
Yeah,
considering...
I don't. Usually, he'd be one of the people you'd want to save and not Get rid
Yeah,
of it.
that's why this is all very strange. Like, we don't know. Maybe he did something. Maybe there's some sketchiness and he did some creepy
Maybe.
thing.
Which, given how 2020 is gone.
It's entirely possible. But
Yeah.
then again, we really don't know. We don't have any more information as of right now. It could change by next week. We might have an update on this. Yeah. So moving forward, we have the Indie World Showcase,
Wahoo!
which was a little Nintendo thing. This was actually, no, this was this week. I thought this was not this week. I was like, did we miss it last week? No, it was this week. This is Nintendo showing up a bunch of indies. Important note here: these indies are not locked to Nintendo consoles. These aren't all exclusives. If you can't tell by Hades being one of the immediate titles to be shown, which is already out on PC. These are not exclusive. It's just Nintendo doing the showcase. So we're gonna go through. We're not going through in order. We're kind of just going through. I'm gonna do games that are like already out or have been out on other platforms first, and then we'll talk about new stuff. So for games that have already been released and are coming to Switch, we have Torchlight 3. I've heard both good and bad things about Torchlight 3. I don't know if anyone else has experience with Torchlight 3. I've heard a lot of 2.
I played a bunch of 2 with a friend of mine.
Yeah, 2 was a lot of fun. 3, I've heard 3 was being handled by a different developer originally, although I think it's kind of been reclaimed and it's had a weird development. So I would definitely look into it. It's got some cool stuff though. There's like customizable forts. It's got some very interesting character classes. Important note: the Switch version does not look very good. It definitely, I would say, it looks less good than Diablo 3 does on the Switch.
I mean, that's to be.
And this is a much newer game.
That's to be expected, to be honest.
I mean, that's also the Torchlight 3 in general is not as pretty as it could be.
Okay.
And on Switch, it looks like it may just not be amazingly optimized. There's not very many particles going on. But it still looks fine. Like it looks like it was running okay.
Do we know if there's crossplay or cross saves?
I don't believe so. I wouldn't put it out of the question, but this is a smaller team, so it's probably. My guess is no for now, but it might be coming later. We're getting Hypnospace Outlaw, which, if people have heard of this, it is a like weird '90s internet simulator type deal. Where you're like a cop, an internet cop. You're an enforcer in the Hypnospace Patrol. So it's a very unique game. I've heard nothing but good things about this on PC. I don't know how this will be to play without a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, huh? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because the gameplay is probably is my bet.
Because that would probably make things a little bit easier.
It is. This game is generally pretty legible because it is like all pixelated. I think it would look fine on the small screen. So, but then how do you play it in docked is the big question. Like, I wonder if they're going to use like the mouse pointer movement of a few games that have done.
Oh, if you could do like a Joy-Con.
Like Joy-Con motion controls, that could be possible, or it could be just using the stick.
Or you make a mouse input with Nintendo Labo. Problem solved.
There you go. There you go.
You take the old Nintendo Mario Paint mouse and you plug that into the back of your Switch and you use that instead. That's what I'm going to do. Because I definitely have a Switch and I also have a mouse. Yeah.
Or you go into your closet, you blow the dust off of your old Wii U gamepad. Now you got a stylus.
Boy.
Yeah. Hypnospace Outlaw. I've heard good things. I don't know if anyone else has played it.
Nope,
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it looks very fun. Yeah, you'll probably know if it's your jam by looking at it. I think this is a game that seems pretty easy to tell if you'll like it. We got Manifold Garden, which is
cool
a very, very fun looking puzzle, like very infinite geometry, mind-bending kind of puzzly game. Along the lines of something like Antichamber. It looks great. I've heard good things about this. It's been out on PC for a while. I've been meaning to play it.
All the good stuff you'd expect from a modern puzzle game.
Yeah, I just heard it's a good puzzle game.
Very
where the geometry repeats infinitely in every direction. Yeah. So, very cool. Again, this seems like a game that I worry about the performance of this game.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern, is that it won't run well because of how much geometry is being rendered. But the trailer looked fine for the most part. And it is a puzzle game, so it may not matter that much if it's locked at 30 or something, or it doesn't run.
And
super great.
I've been very surprised in the past with some Switch ports. Like some ports, what they've been able to do with the Switch is nuts. Like
The Witcher 3 is on Switch. That's still mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the original Crysis running on a Switch, which like that game is old, but that game still kind of.
Well, Crysis is one of the like worst optimized games ever made. That's why the Will It Run Crysis thing is still alive.
I'm sorry. What about Titanfall and their uncompressed sound files?
Oh, don't.
What about Call of Duty
Don't.
and their uncompressed?
All right, moving on. We've got more games to talk about. We've got Subnautica. So Subnautica and the sequel Below Zero are both coming to Switch in 2021. Subnautica, I've played a lot of Subnautica. Very good game. It looked like it was running okay. The original Subnautica was plagued with a lot of performance problems, even on high-end PCs for a while. Most of them got sorted out, but some of them are still there, so it's a little concerning as to how this will run, or if it will release when it says it will release. That remains to be seen.
Do you know what company is porting it to the Switch?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I don't know if it's being handled in-house. My assumption would be in-house, because it is not the smallest of studios, but a smaller studio. Then again, Subnautica was kind of a runaway success, so they would probably have the money to fund a porting company to do it.
There are some like studios that are very much like dedicated to making ports on the Switch. Like there's someone who was it? There was one company that ported Outer Worlds, Doom, and Wolfenstein all
Button something?
Switch.
Red Button.
Panic Button.
Red Button. Big Panic
Button.
There we go.
Panic Button. There we go.
Big Red Button are the people that made Sonic Boom.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right. So our next few games, we have Haven, which was shown off on PC. There's been a PC demo out. Game is not out yet, but it is something we've been able to play on PC before. It looked like it was running a little poorly and didn't look great. But Haven is beautiful in other places. It's the kind of game I would suggest picking up on a different console or PC if you have the option.
And that's the thing, too, is that any game that comes to Switch, even if the port isn't great, it's like, well, there's plenty of people that only have a Switch.
Yeah,
so
if you want to play it portably, go for it. It's just Haven is a very good-looking game on other consoles, and here it did visibly have some issues.
And it's very much based on movement too, so a smooth frame rate would also be very important for a game like that.
Okay. We had Unrailed, which is a weird little indie train, like endless train runner. It's very fun. I've played a bit of the PC version, and it's coming to Switch. It looks cool. It's got co-op, so good Switch game.
Was that the one with the sort of Sayonara Wild Heart aesthetic?
No, it's a voxel aesthetic, so it's more along the lines of like Cube World or Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a few other games. So the games that kind of they rapid fire showed were Struggling, Goner 2, Grindstone, Going Under, Red Lantern, Inmost, and She Dreams Elsewhere, which they kind of rapid fire went over those. We don't have a lot of information on most of these. We do know that Goner 2 is coming out fairly soon. Struggling, I think, is already out on some platforms.
Yeah.
Inmost just recently came out. And that's on PC and Switch. It's available everywhere, I think. Red Lantern, we don't have a date on. She Dreams Elsewhere, we don't have a date on. Going Under, we had some demos available, and it's like a roguelike set in... you're an intern working for a company that needs to go like raid other companies that have turned into mutants. It's really fun. I've played the demo. It was very, very entertaining.
Sounds cool.
It's very much based around like picking items from your environment and going at it. And that's a perfect Switch game, I think. That would be a great like portable Switch game.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very fun. Struggling is like a weird little puzzle thing that also features like flesh mechs. So
Ooh.
probably there are definitely going to be people that are into that. Short Hike is coming out on Switch. Short Hike has been available on PC for a long time and is great. It's a short hike. It's a short experience about like exploring an island. It's got a very unique like early PS1 era visual style, but with a lot higher detail models. It's a very interesting thing. I've heard nothing but good things about it, so probably a great Switch game. Spiritfarer. Now we're getting into the stuff that actually we did talk about Hades a little bit. The thing we didn't talk about Hades is that we got a launch trailer, but the game does not have a release date yet.
Yeah.
They called it a launch trailer. The trailer is great. And Hades is playable on PC. It's fantastic. It's a great roguelike.
Anything from Supergiant is like a fairly safe bet that you're going to get, good gameplay and a lot of.
And
content.
Hades has like a mind-boggling amount of voice lines in it. It is a very, very narrative game, despite being a roguelike, which is really interesting. But it is coming out sometime this fall. We know it's coming out sometime this fall, and it will feature cross-save between PC and Switch, which is very cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's most of the games we already knew about. Spiritfarer is the first like big release thing they did. So Spiritfarer is a life management and like platformer game that they shadow dropped. They went, hey, it's releasing today. And I think a lot of people like me were very surprised, thinking that Spiritfarer was a lot further off.
Yep.
And I've since played a bunch of it. It is very good.
It's very good.
It is just a cozy game. And it is coming out, it's already out on Switch. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can pick up Spiritfarer on Switch. It's also on Game Pass if you have a PC or an Xbox.
It's also on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's how I've been playing it, and it runs great.
Can I make
would be a great Switch game.
Can I make a special shout out to something we saw in the showcase?
Yeah.
I absolutely. So I have it downloaded. I bought it. I have it downloaded. I haven't played it yet. But the first time I saw a trailer for Raji, I fell in love almost immediately. I think
it's so pretty.
I think that Indian mythology is just not something that I know a lot about, but I want to learn more about it. I think these shadow puppet cutscenes are so cool. It has like
the
such
gameplay
a good
looks
look
great
to it
as well.
Gameplay looks so cool, and yeah, I'm very excited. I haven't played it yet. It's on my Switch. I'm ready, and I just haven't gotten to it yet.
They shadow dropped it. It launched the day of the show, which is as of this podcast coming out about a week ago. So it is purchasable now, playable. It is a timed exclusive for Switch, so it will come to other consoles. But it's
on a 10% discount until the 30th if you're interested.
Yeah. So it looks very fun. I will definitely be picking it up at some point, but I want to finish Spiritfarer and a few other things first. Looked great. We are still not done with this though. There were still more games shown. One other thing they mentioned about Raji, it is being done by an Indian studio called Notting Head Games.
Yep.
Which is a really cool thing. It's pretty rare to get studios from lesser, like not America and Europe or Japan in like directs like this. It's pretty rare. So I'm glad to see
it's a lot of
attention.
Happening. It's a lot of attention for a studio like this, which I'm sure must have been such a big break for them.
If I can say one like super quick thing, because I don't want to derail everything immediately. I just like that, and also having gotten to the credits of Mortal Shell because I've played that recently. I did not know that was I'm pretty sure it's a Russian developed game. There's a lot of Russian names on that very small team, and it just made me think like, man, not even like 10 years ago, like Russian games that's like Pathologic and like Stalker, and Mortal Shell looks like, but visually it looks AAA, and like there's some kind of jank, but I feel like from those like non-main Western developer countries, we're like finally able to get like games that are on what people would consider on par with like Western developed stuff. Like we're escaping most of the jank finally, which is so good.
I would definitely add 4A to that. They made the Metro series, which is one of my favorite like shooter series of all time.
I mean, right now Tarkov is huge. Tarkov is made by I believe a Russian team.
Yeah,
I think so.
So we're different games from across the world are getting a lot of exposure right now. And Mortal Shell is a lot of fun if you're into Souls-like games.
It's so hard.
It is very difficult. Okay, we got then Takeshi and Hiroshi, which is this very cute little and also strangely sad-looking game about two brothers. One is a aspiring game designer who's making a game to entertain their little brother. So it's definitely a very interesting thing. The gameplay is you essentially choosing what creatures Hiroshi will be fighting as he goes along, which is a very fun sounding thing. And as someone who likes to DM in Dungeons and Dragons, that's right up my alley. Having heard from people finishing this game, it is very short. It is about 3 hours long, and it's a cheap game. It's I think $9 at full price, so not expensive, very short, and apparently it's got a very like emotional story, and it's also in claymation in the story sections.
That was the only thing. That was the only thing that was a little distracting. Was the claymation reminded me so much of a Robot Chicken video. I just expected some like. I just expected their like Robot Chicken version of Darth Vader to like pop in out of nowhere, and that's not a crit. It's just it was super distracting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god, Seth Green, what are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I have not watched enough Robot Chicken to get that as a first impression. I was more thinking of like, as soon as I saw it, I was like the old Christmas movies that are all claymation.
Oh yeah,
that was my
was it Rankin
Jack
Bath
Frost
animation or something? Yeah.
Yeah. Takashi and Hiroshi, I've heard good things about. So if you're into that kind of game, pick it up. All right, then we saw Card Shark, which is made by the developers of Reigns. It is a game about cheating at cards.
Good stuff.
Finally, I can learn how.
They actually do say it will teach you how to cheat at cards, which is very funny.
Yeah, I liked seeing the cheating mechanics that they showed off in the
It's got a great art style too. It's
I loved the art style.
Oh yeah.
It's like almost like a graphic novel.
It looked to
by
me
French painting. I love it.
Like it was the garden they had was French, but it reminded me more like a Japanese fresco or something like that.
Yeah. It's a very, very cool style. And there were a lot of different like perspectives shown. You're like you're looking at the opponent. There's also side views that happen where you can apparently get shot if you if you cheat too much, you'll get caught, which is a very fun idea. I think this is a great Switch game idea.
It looks very fun.
Yeah, and that's coming in 2021. So something that was really fun is the developer who was talking about the game was doing card tricks while he was talking about it.
Yep.
And they look simple when you're watching the video, but then there are breakdowns of what he's doing, and he's doing some complicated stuff.
Yeah.
To show all that off. Which is
He's
very
absolutely
cool.
styling on you.
Yeah.
As he's talking about his game.
Yep. Then we saw Garden Story, which is a cute little life sim about vegetables.
Not bug snacks, though.
Yeah, not bug snacks, not yet.
Yeah.
You go to a vibrant island.
We're not talking about bug snacks.
You gather resources, you build buildings. It's called Garden Story. It's coming out soon in 2021. It looks very cute. I think there are people that will definitely be into this just from the trailer. And I'll probably pick this up at some point because I love these kinds of games. It looks very fun. Just a neat little world where you play as, I think, a turnip. Or no, you're a grape. You're a grape. I think that you talk to a turnip at one point.
Oh, to be a turnip.
Who doesn't talk to a turnip at some point?
You know, I talk to turnips every day. That's just my daily routine. All right.
All right.
So they really know how to turn up.
Moving on, we saw Evergate. Evergate is a fun-looking game. It's a like puzzle platformer. More emphasis on puzzle than platformer from what I've heard. And I believe this also surprise dropped. So it's out on Switch and PC.
The art style, I immediately thought of Ori when I first saw it.
I think that's a bad comparison just because Ori looks a lot better.
Ooh.
And that's very much a difference of like scale, whereas Ori has a much larger team and it's been in development for, I presume, a lot longer. This is a lot more angular and it's built to hold puzzles, right? It's not built for the world to look like it is a consistent world, which Ori is.
Yeah.
So there's things like floating platforms that Ori doesn't have. Like in Ori, if a platform is floating, there's usually a logic as to why. Or the background will have like a tree that comes up and you're jumping on a tree branch. Whereas here, I'm looking at screenshots and there's just platforms that are floating.
Well, okay, pardon me. It's nothing like Ori. Pardon me.
Yeah, how could you?
Yeah, how could you?
It's just floating. You don't need to know why. Stop asking.
From what I've heard, a more apt comparison is like Celeste in the way the platformer is played out in like the single screen puzzles essentially that you need to then perfectly execute how to get.
Celeste is like pixel art though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm talking about gameplay, not
okay.
visual style.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking. I was like, Ryan.
No. It's got like
I think that's a worse comparison.
no. I'm talking about the gameplay. I've heard it's fun. So if you're into platformers or specifically puzzle platformers, pick this up. There is a really cool ability you have in this game to like jump between space and time, which is this cool little thing where you can kind of go back and forth between levels. You can slow down time, do a bunch of cool stuff. So it is very much like a puzzle game that's got a lot of cool elements to it. And I think you're the kind of person that'll know if you're into this. I think when you see it, you'll be like, I want to play a platformer with puzzle elements. Okay, so I think my game of the show, Bear and Breakfast.
Oh yeah,
we saw Bear and Breakfast, where you are a
good.
bear running a bed and breakfast. That's
it.
that's
all
actually
you
not
need
it.
to
So
know.
you can
It's all
go
in the
explore the
title, baby.
forest and, in quotes, uncover a plot deeper than the wilderness itself.
Oh.
Combines building, management, and exploration. It looks great from what we saw. Launches in 2021 as a timed exclusive.
The wait for Riot must be unbearable.
I cannot wait to get my paws on this game.
There we go.
All right.
You're so excited, you just gotta snout it out. I mean, shout it out. Excuse me.
That one was such a stretch. I have no respect for you at all anymore after that one.
That was
You have all of my respect.
was an interesting leap there, Wyatt. Okay, so we've covered.
Did I ruffle some fur there?
Just stop.
boy.
Just keep
Stop
moving
while you're
before he
ahead. You are
continues.
not ahead anymore.
I could pelt at you some more.
I'm gonna start smashing my head against the hardest thing in the room, and you're gonna get every single lick of that sound. Oh my god!
And I'm gonna laugh.
All right.
Sorry. What?
ASMR. Brett kills himself.
So we've got some more smaller things. And I say smaller things. Flight sim isn't really a small thing. It's just a niche thing.
It's a very big thing.
It's a very, very large thing with some cool stuff in it. Flight Sim has released. There are tons of memes about it now because people are finding like Buckingham Palace is actually just an office block because of course they didn't have the time to hand model Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
So the game's AI generated an office block where it is, which looks fine if you're flying above, but when you get close to it, you're like, wait a minute. There was apparently an error in someone made an OpenStreetMap which listed a 2-story building as 212 stories, and the game took that data, and there was a town that just had a 212-story monolith.
Yeah, it's terrifying looking.
And I'm like, that's hilarious.
Summon the deep ones. We are ready.
Yeah, Flight Sim's on Game Pass if people are into Flight Sims. I will definitely be delving into it at some point. And it is also being hailed as the current gen crisis because current gen CPUs are unable to achieve high frame rates.
I was going to say, every time I've tried to play a
settings.
Flight Sim, my computer has screamed at me.
But can it run Flight Simulator?
We have finally evolved.
I don't think we have, considering Crisis is getting remastered.
Flight
I don't know
Sim
if
needs
evolve
the
is
PS5.
quite the right word I'd use. But...
Yeah.
We've briefly escaped from Crisis until it comes back to destroy us.
See, they're remastering Crisis though, which is usually a sign that they're coming out with another one. Like they always come out with a remaster of an older series and then come out with a new one.
Yeah.
That's such a consistent pattern.
All
strategy.
Right. Are y'all ready for the meat of the episode? We got some meaty stuff to get into here.
Only an hour in.
I mean, we go for like an hour and a half usually, so we have like a good amount of time to devote to just these three things.
The meat.
Actually, two things really.
Time.
So there was an event called DC Fandom. The Fandom always gets me. Like I feel like it should just be fandom, but it's called DC
really
Fandom with a capital D. So it's a dome, I guess. That was
That's
very
not a physical
recent.
dome anymore.
This was over the last 2 days as of the recording of this. It'll be a little bit further back when this comes out. But we got some game announcements. We knew Gotham Knights was being developed a few weeks ago, in that they confirmed that was the topic of the game, but we hadn't seen anything. But we now know about Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. So
yeah.
Gotham Knights is, contrary to popular belief by a lot of people, not a follow-up to the Arkham Knight series. I know it's a little confusing, but it has nothing to do with the Arkham games.
Especially if you know how Arkham Knight ends, it's confusing.
Yeah, which we're not going to spoil here.
Not going to spoil.
Just to confirm, we don't do spoilers in the main show.
but it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. I've heard it's confusing. It's also not related in any way to Arkham Knight. So, yeah, just don't go in expecting this to be an Arkham Knight game. It looks, from the trailer we got, pretty cool. We did see gameplay. We know you will be playing as Batgirl, Red Hood, Robin, and I'm missing someone, Nightwing, right?
Nightwing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to make sure I got all 4 of them. And it is about, well, not just about the Court of Owls, but will heavily feature the Court of Owls.
Mm-hmm. And Mr.
So excited.
It is a 2021 game, so this is next gen. It is not current gen. And I believe they have not said it will be... I think they have not said in any way it'll be launching on current gen stuff, so I would not assume this will be on PS4 and Xbox One. Xbox One might be weird, because I think Xbox is trying to get people to launch on the Series X as well, so that might be on Series X. I would doubt it's on PS4, though.
It'll be in Microsoft's ecosystem somewhere.
Yeah, it'll exist in some form. The trailer they showed, I think a lot of people were surprised at how far along the game was.
Yeah.
And especially considering they're still leaving open 2021 as the release date, they're definitely giving this the time it needs, I think, considering how long it's likely been in development.
They're giving it that CD Projekt Red polish time.
I did notice that, and maybe that was just, I wasn't watching a stream, but maybe it was like a recording of a stream, but I definitely noticed there was like a lot of slowdown at some moments during the gameplay section.
That tends to be a thing that happens in these, especially considering this game's pretty far off. It's likely still being polished up and optimized. But it's worth mentioning, though.
One thing to point out that a lot of people have pointed out, one tiny little thing, that tiny little number above all the enemies' heads, which has everyone terrified that this is going to be.
Okay, well, we're not to the levels yet. We still got to talk about what the game is. We haven't told people what the game is yet. We can't complain about the RPG mechanics until we know what the game is. So the game...
Pardon me.
The game is a up to 4-player co-op experience. It's also fully single player. So if you would rather play solo, don't worry. You can.
Did they say if they're going to have AI partners or not?
We don't know yet. I would probably assume so.
I might be confusing this and Suicide Squad, but I heard yes. For at least one of these.
I believe we don't have a confirmation yet, and the people that have said yes have probably been the stage crew at Fandom, and not the developers. So I wouldn't take that as word yet, especially considering Suicide Squad not coming till 2022. So
the answer is maybe.
The answer is a hard maybe.
Absolutely maybe.
Yeah, so it's got Arkham style combat. It looks pretty fun, aside from what we're about to get into. That I think is the problem Wyatt and I have with it. The visuals looked really good. They chose an ice level to show off with Mr. Freeze. That really showed off their stuff. Like they had a bunch of subsurface scattering and translucence in the ice. That I think is really starting to show that like we're getting to the next gen games.
One
and also the premise of this, Batman's been killed. So the Gotham Knights got to go out and
then he sent out a YouTuber apology video to all his Bat buddies.
Definitely did.
I do one small detail that I really liked is if you've played a lot of the Arkham games, one thing that I really liked was the one moment where they're on like the Gotham streets and they're attacking a bunch of guys on the ground. They were fighting cops at the same time. So it's like this whole other gunfight that you're running into, which I really, really liked, because I don't think there weren't a whole lot of moments in the other Batman games where like you were fighting with the cops. It was usually just you.
Because a lot of the time you're like put into Arkham to like fix the problem. So
and I like in this one it's more thematic where you're like coming into like a robbery or something already in progress, which thematically is really interesting.
They're also showing off, you have plenty of factions of enemies. You have the police, you have the thugs, you have the owls.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff.
You got that variety.
They have some cool boss fight stuff going on with like I think a lot of people were comparing the boss fights to like Destiny raids, and I get that comparison of probably needing to do some crazy stuff to take down the bosses. It looked fun.
Yeah.
I think we know it's open world. I feel like that was confirmed, but we have yet to really see. So it looks, for the most part, good. Clearly, we have a full year left of development, or up to a year. So we don't quite know the final state this will be in. But as of right now, I think as Wyatt and I put it, looked like what Marvel's Avengers probably should have looked like when they first showed it off.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
All right, now we can talk about the levels, Wyatt.
Thank you. Yeah, there were numbers above all the enemies' heads, and they mentioned enemies having different levels and stuff, which I don't know about you, but as someone who's a big fan of Arkham games, having level-gated enemies isn't necessarily something that I would have wanted in Batman.
It also gets me a little concerned that they may do some kind of weird live service thing with this, which I really hope they don't.
Avengers.
I really hope they don't.
One thing they did mention, which was interesting, was they said that if there's an enemy that's higher level than you, it's not just higher stats. They also have different moves and different strategies or something like that, which is interesting.
The weird thing to me is this combat looked really good, except for the fact that a bunch of people just had numbers above their heads. It looked out of place. It wasn't something they'd always planned for.
The damage numbers too looked like they were just in Times New Roman ass font.
Yeah.
They didn't even look like they it would be cool if they had a more comic-y thing, or even a more digital.
Dude, I would love
one,
a comic looking POW style.
It would be cool. It might clash a little bit, but it would be fun enough where I feel like that it could work.
But damage numbers, you could probably turn them off.
Especially because Gotham Knights, this trailer is colorful. The Gotham Knights aren't quite as dark as I think the normal Batman stuff is, and there was a lot of color being shown. A lot of neon. I'm hoping
Robin and
they
Batgirl
get
especially.
a little bit away from the normal Batman game trap of just being super gritty all the time.
Yeah.
Which is great fun in those games. Those games are great, but something different would be nice, especially to see that side of these are a younger group of characters now. And we did see Batgirl was making a lot of quips.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot else going on. So your choice of character might kind of have an effect on that. But yeah, it looked pretty interesting. The levels to me are I think developers are getting in this mindset of RPGs sell great, so what we need to take things from RPGs for our games, right? They're taking the wrong stuff. Levels are not what make RPGs. What makes RPGs is character builds and choices that you get to do, and levels are just a kind of a convenient way to show that, but they aren't necessary, right? In most scenarios, even in Outer Worlds and Fallout games, your level doesn't really matter. What matters is your gear and what you can do to the enemy. And the level is just kind of a number. So I really think the levels are just kind of unnecessary.
I agree. I think the way they were talking about them too is in a game like Pokemon or Final Fantasy, it's okay, well, I'm level 43 and this guy is level 52. He's probably gonna kick my butt, and I'm gonna feel sad about it. And even a super effective move might not be that great against him. But the way they were talking about it, or you may just miss
every single attack.
It's that too. The way they were talking about it when they were showing the gameplay, it's they mentioned it's scaling, and I imagine if you leveling up will scale the enemies with you, I would imagine.
What is the point of the level then?
Exactly. There's no point for the level number to be there.
And even then, them saying that the enemies will get different moves as their levels are up, I'm that's just how enemy progression works in games.
Exactly.
The Arkham games work like that. The enemies get different moves the further in you are.
And it makes you wonder. Go ahead.
The way you can tell that is at least from my experience, in Halo, it's okay, you get the red and blue elites, and then towards the end you get the white elite ultras and the golden ones, and then at the very end there's the black special ops, the special ops forces that come in, and that's different color enemy means okay, this is like the enemy before but different. He doesn't need a different number, just change the color of his shirt or something, and that's it's the same thing. You don't need levels for that. I feel
oh no, he went from green to red. He's harder.
He's level 100 now.
It makes you wonder if they're going to be doing all of this scaling with the enemies. It makes you wonder, if you just turn off all those numbers, will it just play like a normal Arkham game?
Yeah,
and they're just putting in all these numbers.
Then what's the point of the numbers? So
that should bring up the bad part of them taking the bad part of RPGs and in this. And
it's not even that it's the bad part. It's just RPGs usually have a reason for it.
Yeah,
and
you've missed the point. I think
Avengers. It's how is appearance going to change with quote unquote leveling up? How's that going to work? Is there going to be gear, God forbid? That's
yeah, I saw different costumes.
Robin had that's been
really
in Arkham,
cool
though.
costume.
Robin had a few different looks they showed off in the trailer. The Arkham games have had costumes forever, so I'm not too surprised. I really hope they're not super monetized.
I was gonna say, have we heard anything about monetization? Because like so
Not
far,
really.
this does just kind of look.
I
like
think
a
a
better
lot of
version
what might
the
happen,
Avengers
they may be
game,
waiting for Avengers to come out and see what the reception is to
which
Avengers
makes
stuff.
sense. They
And
They're
then
certainly
see
have
how far they
time.
can push it.
Yeah, and I
Love of
think
Christ, don't make
like
it a live service.
like to add on to that, they were also very vague about how
Yeah.
numbers and levels work. So maybe
Yeah.
they're like testing the waters to see what people think about it.
Because it seemed like for the most part the gameplay was pretty complete. It's just the stuff
Yeah.
like fine details are still up in the air, and I'm betting they are definitely waiting to see what the reception for Avengers will be like.
Mhm.
Which
They had
is
until-
probably a good thing for them to
Yeah.
wait, because hopefully that means they will avoid some of the pitfalls it seems like Avengers might be jumping headfirst into.
At light speed.
Yeah, at light speed.
They're just hurtling towards the. God, all right. No, we already talked about it, right?
We talked about Avengers last time. It's in a weird scenario. This looks like it will. It looks pretty complete already, and it definitely they
Yeah.
were not like faking the gameplay from what it seemed like, because there were minor niggles in the gameplay, like stuff just not working.
And the
I
person
saw-
playing even like messed up at one point.
Yeah.
I
It's
saw
like,
Batgirl's hair like floating in the air at one
And
point.
when I see that kind of
Too.
stuff, I think a lot of people get worried when they see that. For me, that's the sign that this is definitely a real game being
it's
played.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it reminds me of when they first showed off gameplay for Uncharted 4. They had to restart the whole thing because
Yes.
Yeah.
the opening cutscene happened, and then they just couldn't get like Drake to move, so they had to restart the whole thing. And I was like, okay, so this is probably real.
It's
And they made a
yeah,
fun little
exactly.
out of it.
It's an
It's
assurance
not,
that the thing
know-
exists.
Yeah.
It's not all touched up.
Yeah.
It's
So
not Halo 2.
I think it's definitely a good thing they waited this long to show it, because it's coming pretty soon. We're within presumably a year of the release date, and it looks complete for the most part.
Yeah.
The ice area, I think something people pointed out from this trailer is that they made Mr. Freeze look very villainous. Like,
Oh yeah.
this is like, I think the most like sinister version of Mr. Freeze we've seen, of him literally just like turning a building into an icy hellscape, and the entire surrounding area is like covered in spikes.
Yeah.
It definitely makes him
He-
seem like more of a threat than he is in the other Arkham games.
His design reminds me a lot of the animated series design.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the red goggles and that very domey helmet.
Yeah, but
That-
at the
that's
same
the thing.
time,
I'm
he's
totally
got
fine
like
with.
a mech suit. It's insane.
It looks very, a lot of this game's like design stuff looks like they're taking it straight from the comics.
which
Like
is
they showed the
And-
Court of Owls mask at the end, and I think you can literally like get that mask if you buy the like graphic novel version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
And the Arkham series has always had some of my favorite designs. Like if you've seen the Scarecrow's design
Yeah.
for Arkham
Oh
Knight,
yeah.
Scarecrow, that is literally my favorite like Scarecrow design is Arkham Knight. He's disgusting. He's got like the needles coming out of his like fingers. He's got the creepy
Yeah.
mask. Awesome. So it's good to see that they've kept that going, at least from
Yeah, it
others.
looks really, really fun. Okay, so any other things we want to bring up about Gotham Knights?
Promising.
I've wanted co-op in an Arkham game forever, so
Yes.
this is kind of a dream come true.
Actually, so I do know Arkham Origins did have co-op between Batman and Robin that you could play, and it was apparently
Well, they had
really
a whole
fun.
multiplayer mode that was like a shooter.
Yeah, I never knew about
weird
that
thing. Yeah,
but apparently the like
Wait.
Batman Robin co-op section was really good.
they had that. They had something like that in Arkham Knight too, where it wasn't like 2-player co-op, but you could do these cool like cooperative takedowns with Robin, and you could like
Yeah.
switch characters and stuff. It was pretty
They
cool.
did put an emphasis on like teamwork here, where there's takedowns you do with other characters.
It looked very much like what they did in Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
Very similar to that.
And the important thing to note, the characters all do seem to play differently. They've all got kind of the same, similar looking weapons, but they are definitely different stuff. Like Batgirl has a tonfa, Nightwing's got his staff
Yeah.
and sticks,
Mhm.
Red Hood's got guns.
You know.
Which is, I think, going to be interesting to see how he compares to the rest of the cast, considering he's just got guns.
The only other
They showed off
uh,
abilities. They had a
Red
Batgirl
Hood
like
is
summon
also
a cloud of
people.
bats at one point.
What?
only-
I don't remember that.
the only other worrying thing, not worrying for me personally, but I know it will be for a lot of people, is that this is being developed by the same guys that made Arkham Origins, which not everyone liked. It was not like a super well received game. I thought it was
Yeah.
fine, but a lot
But
of people
it didn't
like
have
it.
like I think core design issues, which is the
No,
problem.
no,
we're starting to
I
see with a lot of
liked it.
stuff now.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was good.
I think the biggest problem with Origins was just it ran terribly for the first like 6 months that existed,
Well, no, well,
as to where it like literally just wouldn't run.
it ran fine for me.
Yeah, it didn't for me. I couldn't play the game. That's why I haven't finished it yet.
Are you thinking about Knights or are you thinking about...
No, I'm thinking about Origins. 100%. Okay. It's Origins.
Well, right,
they gave away
Knights
Origins for free at one point. It's been fixed now.
Knight? Arkham Knight?
I think both have. If I remember correctly.
No, not Arkham Knight. I think that's still a...
Yeah, I never had issues with Knight. I had issues with Origins. So that is the scenario right now for these games. Not related to the Arkham Knight series again. Different continuity. Looks fun. We don't know too much about the structure of the game yet, which is what I'm really curious about.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers seem unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a little concerning. Cosmetics are concerning, and I hate that the games industry has done this to us now, where we see cosmetics and we're just concerned.
Yeah.
And that makes me so sad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that shouldn't be what I see. Where in like the old Arkham games, if I saw a cosmetic in a trailer, I'd be like, ooh, I can't wait to get that in the game. And now it's just like, oh, well, maybe it's just going to be $5. And I'll be like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's left in the dust from the old Arkham games, controversial opinion, screw all of the Riddler crap. I did not like any of the Riddler's crap from the other Arkham games. So if they don't have that, I'll be fine with that, because
I mean different developers
super annoying.
From the rest of the series aside from Origins. So probably I would guess not.
Hopefully. I hated those parts.
So the second game shown off at DC Fandom was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, this one's in a bit of a different scenario. We haven't seen what the game looks like. We've just seen a CG trailer. Albeit it was a good CG trailer. It definitely sold me on the game.
Definitely.
It's like, oh wow, they redid Suicide Squad the movie, and they righted everything that was wrong.
Well, they're already doing that.
Yeah, they're already doing that, and they're also like, this is separate from the movie, so it's not the same thing as the movie. It's a completely different scenario. I'm just glad they're taking a whack at the actual, like, the idea of we gotta kill all the good guys, right? The Injustice style. Let's go for it. But in an actual like open world, or maybe not open world, but in an actual like third person action game is what my assumption would be.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't think Superman was a good guy in that game.
Absolutely not. He looked like Injustice Superman.
Well, I thought it was Bizarro for a second.
Because he's got purple. That's what.
Well, so there's all the Brainiac stuff, which I think the implication is that Brainiac has turned the Justice League evil. And there's probably no known way of fixing it. So I'm curious if the game is going to like end with you killing them, or if it's going to end with you trying to find a fix. I really hope it's just a kill them game.
Oh yeah, I hope you end up killing them, and then like at the end it's like, oh, we found a fix. That sucks. They're all dead.
Cut to black. It just cuts there.
That'd be a great ending for a Suicide Squad game.
It's from the humor in the trailer, that's what it looks like. It could happen.
I would love that.
They definitely got everyone's characterization down.
Yeah. Oh, totally. The concern I have is they have said that this game is the follow-up to Arkham Knight, like the Arkham series.
What?
Which is very confusing.
What?
And I hope that was just like a WB employee not necessarily knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because like
that's implying this is in the same universe.
Yeah, which is weird because Harley Quinn and Deadshot are straight up different people than they are in the Arkham games. Like they look different. Deadshot in the other Arkham games is a white dude with a hoodie, whereas here he is like the movie design. Will Smith lookalike with like tech. And don't get me wrong, I like this design a lot better, but it's weird if they were saying it's the same thing and then they're going to try to imply it's the same character because he's so clearly a different person, and like Harley Quinn is very clearly different as well. So I'm curious if they're going to stick with that or just be like, this is its own thing. And first of all, I don't get why it's important. It's a continuation. But yeah, we don't know a whole lot about the game. It's heavily implied it'll be like 1 to 4 player co-op. The characters we saw are King Shark, who looked fun. We got Harley Quinn, of course. We have Deadshot, of course, and we got Captain Boomerang.
They made it look cool. They made Captain Boomerang look cool.
I know. He was like doing teleporting. And, he looked fun. He looked really fun.
Yeah.
And
I do want to say I didn't call that Rocksteady was going to make a Suicide Squad game, but I did call very not on this show, but many years ago when I played Arkham Knight, that they were going to do something with like shooter mechanics next, because there's a lot of sections in Arkham Knight where you're in a first person perspective and you're using a gun. I'm not going to say any more than that, but it was like they're very much testing the waters with like gunplay.
I'm curious how different it's going to be, because like King Shark definitely doesn't seem like he'll play like a shooter. I'm betting King Shark is going to be classic third-person action, and then probably like Deadshot will be more along the lines of a third-person shooter.
What it seemed like was like this feels like Left 4 Dead. And if that's the path, if that's the path they want to go down, that's totally cool with me. We need more Left 4 Dead style games, in my opinion. And if you can make that with Suicide Squad characters, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I'm super curious as to what this will be, because we have so little information on this. So I'm very curious as to what it will end up looking like.
And
in 2 years.
Rocksteady is one of those, like, they have a really good track record. I haven't played anything outside of Batman. Have they made anything outside of their Arkham series at all? I don't know, but like all the Arkham games,
all the Arkham games are fantastic. Like every single one of them.
They're a very safe bet, in my opinion, when it comes to like overall.
They've done a few old things. They did Urban Chaos Riot Response.
Oh boy.
In 2006. So they're definitely mostly known for the Arkham games, which are all great.
Yeah. Even people were disappointed with Knight, but like, outside of the
bit I played of it
sections, outside of the Batmobile sections, which like overstays their welcome, Knight was my personal favorite. I thought Knight was great.
Yeah, so Rocksteady's got a very, you could say, Rocksteady track record.
Yeah, good puns.
We have 3 Alex Labellas in this chat and only 1 Brett, and I'm very sad.
Alex Labella has entered the chat just 3 separate times.
Too many puns.
Look, we got to get punny whenever we can,
I guess so.
So, yeah, Suicide Squad definitely seems interesting. We just haven't seen the game. We don't know a release date. We know 2022 is the projected date. That could definitely end up changing and being 2023 if something goes wrong. So I'm curious to see when this comes out. We know they've been working on this for a while, because Rocksteady has to have been developing this for years at this point. At least that's my assumption.
Can I also say another piece of information we do know about this is that King Shark is voiced by the one, the only WWE wrestler Samoa Joe.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah,
that's perfect.
And it's I don't
He's
know
good
how he's so good. I don't know how like into wrestling anyone else here is, and I don't really watch WWE too much anymore. But like, he's on the commentary desk now since he's getting a little older and he doesn't want to wrestle all the time now, or I guess maybe he might not be allowed to or something. But like, his voice is so good, and me and my other friends have always said. Exactly. He should be a voice actor, and now he is, and hopefully he does more, because it's really funny that Samoa Joe is King Shark. But also, he just does a really good job, and I want to hear him in more stuff because it's super convincing.
I don't know. I definitely am looking forward to this. I think most people came out of this feeling positive about it.
Yeah.
It's just, again, the issue of we have not seen any bit of gameplay, so. It may not turn out great. Okay.
But we're also not 100% sure what kind of game it is.
Exactly. Like it could be a Left 4 Dead like style thing with different missions. Might be open world. It's set in Metropolis. We do know that, which is cool because we haven't really seen Metropolis in a long time. Since like not the N64 Superman, but the PS2 Superman game.
There was a
there was
a Man of Steel game. I think
there is, but I don't think anyone played it. So.
Yeah, I didn't know it was real. It might not be.
I think it was like a weird movie tie-in that wasn't great. The last Superman game I remember playing that was really good was, I think, the PS2 one, which I don't remember the name of. Yeah, so we've got some other small bits of news. It's actually some brand new stuff, too. Apparently the artist of Skullgirls, Brian June, is leaving the studio.
Oh my.
Which is... it's probably a big blow to the studio, considering a lot of their identity is built on that art style.
Do you say why?
Games.
Huh.
It doesn't sound like it's a bad thing. It just seems like he's leaving.
He's not because I seem to remember there being some type of controversy with one of those
nope.
people.
There's a controversy. There's a controversy.
Okay.
It is Okay,
boy.
so apparently Mike Z now
Had a
owns
feeling.
the All of Lab Zero Games, and he's creating an unsafe work environment for everyone. Removing him is definitely difficult, so he originally agreed to leave, but is unwilling to make a reasonable compromise, so that June is taking his exit now.
All right.
So
man
there is
has
drama.
An escape pod and is leaving.
This came out literally about 20 minutes before this podcast started, so
God,
brand new news. That's some drama.
Oh,
Is this our fault? We're always reporting on constantly. Is it just because we're recording on Sundays and that's when just everything changes?
No, I mean, because any day this week would have had this. If we did this yesterday, we would have had the Microsoft thing.
Right.
A few days ago, we would have had like the Suicide Squad stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on.
It's all just
every day has news. I mean, it's the summer.
We're screwed either way.
Games news time. We get a lot of games news during the summer because usually the movie industry isn't doing a lot. Entertainment in general is kind of skewed towards games during the summer because people have more free time, especially kids.
During now.
Yeah, and during COVID, it's like the one industry that's kind of still chugging along.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Every time I go to a movie, there's no one in there. It's weird.
I mean, yeah.
They let you in?
Yep. Okay. So we then have Warframe has Heart of Deimos releasing on the 25th, which is just actually the day this podcast comes out. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can try that out and let us know how it is. We got Facebook is now requiring you to log in with a Facebook account to play Oculus VR stuff as of October.
Right.
It's happening in October.
Stinky.
Little stinky. We'll see how bad this is. I'm worried because I have a Revive library that I use. If it's just not going to work anymore, which will be really sad because I like Asgard's Wrath a lot and would like to still be able to play it. So that's a situation that's still kind of going on. Australia now requires in-game purchases to be disclosed on the front covers of physical video games.
Oh,
finally,
in May of this year. So
revolutionary.
Well done.
Yeah, this is old news. It just hasn't really been reported on a lot, and that's pretty cool. That
baby steps.
Baby steps to getting back to where we were a few years ago.
Good stuff.
Thank God.
Yep. Okay. Valve added an entry to their facts saying developers are allowed to promote only the Steam version of their game on the Steam community. This is a weird one that I don't think is actively being enforced. I wonder if there was some. This to me says this might be a workaround to why they banned some adult games that were on Steam that were linking to uncensoring patches. This is, to me, that's what this reads like, is them saying you can't link to those on the Steam community. Because that was happening a lot, and there's been a lot of controversy about games doing that. So I don't think this is a sinister thing. To me, this is just a way for them to protect their backs in case they need to essentially retaliate against adult patches.
A little poorly timed.
Yeah, definitely poorly timed. Definitely poorly timed. Yeah. We did get PlayStation released an article talking about how launching a console during a pandemic is a challenge on every front.
What a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, not that surprising. Gamescom is going to host 2 hours of games on next Thursday. So normally Gamescom is a week-long conference which reveals a lot of stuff. It's usually not quite as big as something like E3, but it is a pretty big reveal show. And considering that there was no E3 this year, people are kind of looking to this as the next big thing. We'll likely be covering whatever happens over the Gamescom show, either next week or the week after, depending on what days of Gamescom this stuff comes out. So yeah, that'll be happening in the next 2 weeks. Gamescom, they've said they will have 38 different games shown from 18 different publishers.
Are they new or things that we've seen before? Do you know?
Let me check. This is literally from right before the show as well.
Okay.
Expected runtime 2 hours. Okay, so this is about Opening Night Live. So this will be next week's podcast because this show is on Thursday. At least for part of it. We're also planning to talk about some other stuff next week. And it's going to be streaming on Twitch. It's Opening Night Live, which is Jeff Keighley's thing. Jeff Keighley is a guy who runs the Game Awards.
Thank God.
Everyone's favorite.
Okay, so we know they will be showing off the reveal of the Doom Eternal campaign expansion and the reveal of
Cool.
season 2 of Fall Guys.
Ooh.
Okay, so the show. Okay, there will be some new game announcements, but like Opening Night Live last year, the show is primarily focused on updates from announced titles. So this is mostly going to be us getting news on announced titles. People are really, there's a lot of hope here that we might get some Elden Ring news.
Please, God.
Because that game was announced 2 years ago.
It's supposed to release like tomorrow.
It was announced 2 years ago, and we've heard nothing since then.
I keep forgetting that game exists.
Yeah, so do I.
I don't blame you.
It's the curse of George R. R. Martin.
Does anyone remember Capcom was making a game that was like supposed to be a launch title for the PS4 back in the day? It was this weird like dragon, like you're like a knight and you're attacking like a dragon, or it's like Deep Down or something like that.
Yes,
and
that got
it just kind of never came out. It reminds me a lot of that, where it's like bunch of
Deep
hype
Down
and then
did
just
legit
nothing.
just get canceled, I believe.
I hope that doesn't happen to FromSoft.
I doubt it will. FromSoft is usually comes through on their projects. It might just be needing more time to cook. Or maybe they want to come out swinging with the gameplay reveal, which is what I hope they're doing. Yeah, we talked briefly last podcast about the Eiyuden Chronicles Kickstarter. It has now shattered basically every single goal they put. And yeah, it's coming out in like 2 years. So if you're interested in JRPGs, check out Eiyuden Chronicles. Seems cool. Will definitely be coming out at some point. Well, I say definitely, it's a Kickstarter game, not definitely. But it's made by a team that has a lot of clout behind them and a good history of releasing games that they say they're going to release. So, likely actually coming out. That's most of this week's news. We'll just do a quick check over, make sure we're not missing anything. We talked about the Deathloop delay. We talked about Black Myth. We talked about Cold War. Oh, we did miss one thing. Trials of Mana, the remake, significantly exceeded Square Enix's expectations. I don't know if anyone here has played Trials of Mana. It's
not
a clue what that is.
It's a JRPG. It's a remake of a SNES JRPG, but this time in full 3D and like third-person combat. It's got some super unique stuff where you choose characters at the start of the game out of 6, and you get that character story, and you just don't get 3 of the other character stories in your game. So it's like designed for multiple playthroughs. It's a cool game, cool idea. I haven't played a lot of it. But it sold, I don't think it sold outstandingly well. And to see that it exceeded Square Enix's expectations is kind of heartening, because Square Enix has a weird track record with sales of expecting very wildly different numbers. So for people that followed Deus Ex, Mankind Divided was kind of the death of it, because Square Enix said that it didn't meet their expectations, despite it being a top seller for months. It just didn't meet their like sales expectations.
A lot of AAA publishers are like that, though. Like a game will sell.
Square Enix is pretty well known for this, though, of canceling games based on this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I hope this means they're starting to change their outlook and like be a little more realistic in what they're expecting. It could also have just been that Mankind Divided was ungodly expensive. I don't think we actually have full numbers on how much it cost, but it did cost a lot to make. And it was supposed to be the first of like either a 2-part or a 3-part series.
Oh.
Yeah, so it ends on a cliffhanger from my knowledge. So people have been kind of upset about that for years. But there's a solid chance we get a new Deus Ex title, because Cyberpunk's kind of reviving interest in the genre. So I'd say there's actually an off chance that in the next few years we'll start to hear more about Deus Ex again. That's my prediction. But yeah, that's most of our news for this week. Beat Saber got a Linkin Park DLC.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing is they're the censored version of the songs.
Oh, hell yeah.
The energy just drained. Reports from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 demo are very good. People are saying that the new stuff is great. They updated the control scheme, so it plays like Underground and I think American Wasteland instead of the original game, so there's a lot more options. You can do more tricks.
That's cool.
Mute Grab was renamed to the Weddle Grab because Mute was like a kind of a derogatory name for it. Because the person who that grab was named after was deaf, not mute. But they called it the Mute Grab. Now it's just named after him, the Weddle Grab.
Cool.
Which is a cool little thing. Yeah, that's our news. So that's the show. We're mostly done with the show. We've made it to the end of an episode. All we have left to do is give shoutouts. You thought it might have changed. It didn't change. Shoutouts are still here. They'll always be here.
It.
All right, Wyatt, I'm gonna point directly at you for shoutouts first.
I just finished The Boys on Netflix, so shout out to The Boys. Good show. Good show. I feel like I had a heart attack 3 times watching it. It's very stressful, but it's very good. I mean, it doesn't need any more clout from me. Doesn't need any more attention from me. But if you haven't seen it and you have an Amazon account, check it out. It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, I'll toss mine in here. I'm gonna give a shout out to Google Spreadsheets. I don't use it very often, but when I do, it's surprisingly useful. Just because you can like share spreadsheets. That's how we do our scheduling for the podcast now. It's great. It's a nice little tool. If you didn't know, it's free.
It's very useful.
All right, Brett, what you got for us?
I'm gonna shout out all the devs and the people that made Mortal Shell for I don't know if we've blown our one big swear, but I'm not gonna do it anyway. For scaring the bejesus out of me and the way that a game has not done in a long time, and that game is terrifying and it is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun with it too. All right, Alex, what's your end us on a high note?
Oh God! Shout out to season 3 of Legend of Korra.
Good.
Good.
Shout out to Avatar in general. You know.
Yeah.
Good.
My
universe.
favorite the original. My favorite animated TV show.
Don't you mean your favorite anime?
It's
You
okay.
can say it. That means
not really.
That means we are done with the show. Have a good week, everybody, and we will see you. Actually, we'll see you very soon because we're doing the Ghost of Tsushima Games Club episode tomorrow from this recording, which likely means it will release the day after this episode goes out. So tomorrow for you as well. Look forward to that. It's going to be fun. We have a lot of stuff to talk about with it that I think will be very interesting. Also, you can find us live on Twitch Sundays at 8 p.m. pretty regularly now. Usually we start on time. You can find us on the links in the description of the Anchor page or whatever podcast app you're using, or the YouTube. It's all there. The YouTube has some extra stuff as well, where Wyatt and I have gone through and played a few games. Hopefully other people will start joining us as well for that. But we've played some stuff. We played some Halo. We played some Grounded. A few cool things. We played Aliens. Stuff is available on there's 2 different YouTubes. There's a YouTube that is a stream archive, which is linked in the Double Own Radio YouTube. You can check that out. And there's the Double Own Radio YouTube, which uploads all these videos, as well as in the future some stuff I think we've been cooking up that'll hopefully come out at some point. It's the best promise we can make for that. Yeah, have a fun week, everybody, and we hope to see you again soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, Douglas. You were allowed to talk during the outros.
I keep forgetting that every single time.
I did it the once and you shamed me for it.
No, that was during the intro, Alex.
Alex, what you don't know is you've paved new ground ever since that one slip up, but now we're allowed to do it every time.
Brett,